Thank you so much, and thank you, Rep. O'Malley, for hearing our testimony today. I'm here to speak to Bill number 4081, which is to rename a portion of M57 for Firefighter Mike Wagner as a memorial highway. I could talk for a long time about this amazing gentleman and what he means to the city of Clio and Vienna Township area, but I'd like to introduce instead Fire Chief Paulson, who can speak much more from the heart, having served with him, and he can speak specifically to who he was as a person and what he means to the community.
Thank you. I appreciate you allowing us to be here today. Mike Wagner was a loving husband, son, brother, father, and grandfather. But he was also a brother to 45 brothers and sisters of the Clio Fire Department. Mike was better known as Woogie to us, but he was taken way too early, and his losses left an empty hole in our hearts. He became a firefighter and decided to dedicate his life to helping others. He was willing to risk his life to save others. In fact, he pulled one of his fellow firefighters to safety after he fell through a hole in the floor at a house fire. We'll never know how many lives he may have saved if he hadn't been taken away by a drunk driver that day. He joined our fire department in 2008. He was an excellent firefighter with an infectious and genuine laugh that we still miss today. He was loved by everyone who knew him. Most would say he was one of my best friends. He never had a bad word to say about anybody. Clio was a paid-on-call fire department, which means if you're in town, you're on call. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We're firefighters in the same community where we live and work, so we're often helping our neighbors and our friends. But our greatest fear as firefighters, when responding, we just never know if it could be one of our own loved ones. Well, on July 30th, 2016, our greatest fear became reality. Both our stations were dispatched to a rollover crash with entrapment, right on the boundary line between our two stations. But something went wrong. 911 dispatch, radio traffic, Clio Fire Police, stand down. All firefighters return to your station and await further instructions. Then 911 called an outside department, something they'd never done before. You see, Mike, who was on call, was wearing his pager, and when 911 dispatch toned Clio, our local police department heard his pager going off in his van that day and realized he was one of Clio's firefighters, and this would be devastating for us to see. So we all waited at the station. All we knew it was bad, and there was something they didn't want us to see. We just figured it was someone's family member. They didn't want to take a chance of their loved one seeing them. My assistant and battalion chief drove to the scene to get the report information. When they returned, we found it was worse than we thought. It was one of our own in the accident. And you didn't make it. Sorry, excuse me. Mike was not only one of my firefighters, but he was also my cousin. As the fire chief, I had to speak to my firefighters about what had happened and who it was. And then I had to go and inform the family, my own family, of what had happened. Most difficult day of my career. Mike was one of just a few who responded to either of our fire stations. He lived in the Station 1 area, but his family and their farm was in the Station 2 area. When he was helping at the family farm, he responded to Station 2, get on their trucks. Of course, everybody in the department knew him and loved him. So as you can see, this memorial will help heal the hearts of our firefighters of both stations and help link our stations together. It will also show all our firefighters who are serving, risking their lives, how important they are to the community and the state. But you asked, does Mike Wagner deserve the memorial sign? If he were here, he'd say no. He'd tell it somebody else deserves it instead. He'd be embarrassed by the intention. Mike was one of the most genuine and humble men I know. But I'm here to tell you, yes, Mike Wagner does deserve the memorial sign between fire stations 1 or 2. If it hadn't been him in the accident, he would have been there trying to save someone instead. like you did time and time again. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for your consideration. Appreciate it.
Chief, thank you for your testimony, sir.